The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi everyone. Today on Aging Horizons, we're going to be talking about SHIP. You know what that is, the State Health Insurance Assistance Program. Very, very important advocacy for Medicare beneficiaries. We have a great guest with us today, Sandra Lowry from Area 4 Agency on Aging. And Sandra has so much experience. She's going to tell us all about how this stuff works, and you're going to be really informed. So stay with us.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare Summary Notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
Receiving help for Ella has been life-changing, and the best word for it is relief. I was the therapist, I was the aide, and I couldn't be the mom because emotionally you're just to your wits' end, you're trying to survive.
I provide care for the Harrises, specifically their daughter Ella. Respite care is extremely challenging, but the rewards that you receive from it are 100 times more than working with a child that doesn't have special needs. Once they get something, it's everything. It's a you celebrate. You don't just enjoy those moments. You celebrate every moment that you get, that you guided them to that next step.
Respite. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. Will you provide it? Call 800-224-6034 or visit respite.mt.gov.
It went from survival to enjoying life and being able to be a mom again.
Brought to you by the Montana Broadcasters and this station.
Hi everyone, welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm Kimmy Everman, your host, and you know what? Today we're going to talk about SHIP, State Health Insurance Assistance Program. Just this wonderful advocacy program for Medicare beneficiaries and their families and friends as well. We've talked about it lots of times on this show, but we're going to talk about it again today because it's always important, and we've got open enrollment coming up. With us today is Sandra Lowry. Sandra, welcome.
Thank you.
So good to have you, and you're the SHIP coordinator for the Area 4 Agency on Aging.
That's right.
You've been doing it a long time. We were talking off camera. We've been doing this a few years.
Yes, 20 years for me.
Golly.
I know.
So you've seen a lot of changes, hopefully a lot of good changes, although I know not everything is great with Medicare. But to start with, let's first start by talking a little bit about Area 4 Agency on Aging. You know, we've been having different SHIP folks on the show this past year, and I like them to talk a little bit about their agency, even though it's unique to your area, which is Helena is the sort of, or Bozeman, I guess, is sort of the center of it. But tell us a bit about what your area agency is involved in terms of the community.
Our agency, Kim, serves people 60 and older, or those under 60 with disabilities. So anyone can come to us if they are having questions about Medicare, Medicaid, or any of the insurances connected with that, and we can give them good information that will help them to make decisions about their health care. And in addition to that, we also connect people to services in the community. So things like food, legal services, energy assistance, the list kind of goes on and on, housing, so we can do that as well.
And there's an area agency that serves every single community, right?
Right, that's right. We serve 6 counties, and there are 10 agencies across the state. So if anyone wants to access their local agency on aging, they can do that by calling a 1-800 number that will ring into their agency.
And we'll put that on the screen so people can write that down, because that's pretty important. What you said is very important. It'll ring in no matter where you live to the right place.
That's right.
And one thing I will say, we've had a little bit of issue with cell phones over the years. All you have to do is say, I live in such and such, and that person is going to get you to the right place.
That's true. We have to transfer a lot of times, but we do that so that they can get the help that they need.
Right. And it's a really no wrong door
That's correct.
service. So you also do things like respite. You have things with Alzheimer's disease. I mean, you have all kinds of things going on at the area agency.
We do. We run the gamut. We try very hard to reach the people that we serve by doing outreach. We have evidence-based programs, so things like Stepping On, which helps with balance. We during the pandemic, developed several ways to stay connected. We do an online class that is put on by our outreach coordinator, and people can connect that way. And there are speakers from places like the Historical Society, Fish, Wildlife, and Parks that talk about different subjects concerning Montana. So we have done a lot in this last year to reach out.
That's so great. That sounds great.
It's
it
wonderful.
really does. And I applaud you for the sort of Historical Society and Fish, Wildlife, and Parks sort of presentations. I see those myself sometimes, and they're really fun.
They are.
And they really help you lighten up your mood a little bit, because it's nothing about pandemic.
That's right. That's
It's,
right.
You know, it's something very fun or historical.
Yeah, keeping people active, especially their minds, is really important, and so we try to do a lot of that sort of thing.
So the last year you mentioned has been pretty difficult. Do you feel like folks, like you were able to do the outreach you wanted to do? I mean, it was, you had to really pivot.
We had to be very creative, and technology, of course, comes into that, and we used a lot of technology during this last year in order to connect.
And how did people do with that out in the areas?
You know, they did better than we thought they might. There are a lot of people who are able to connect, and if they cannot, we do it by telephone. We do a great deal of our work by telephone anyway, so that's another way.
Yeah, because I think it's important to really point out that you don't have to be computer savvy to be able to connect, right?
That's right.
There's lots of ways, as you said, the telephone and all kinds of things, but also just reaching out maybe to your local senior center can help you get connected in.
That's
Meals,
right.
something like that.
Yes, we have a lot of clients that are on Meals on Wheels, so they're getting that daily connection, which is really important, so that we know that they're doing well, or if they're not, we can help them.
Have you seen that change much over the past year? Have more people wanted meals?
Yes, it's increased a
lot?
great deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad to hear that. I know that I suggested to a lot of people, even who say, "Oh, I can cook," but you don't get that social interaction.
That's right. That's
that,
right.
That the Meals on Wheels volunteers bring to the door.
It's as much for the social interaction as it is for the food.
Absolutely. It nourishes the brain, the body, and the soul.
It does,
Right?
yes.
Well, folks, you know, we talked about at the beginning that we'll be talking about Medicare, and we're going to dive into that as soon as we come back. But we wanted you to get a feel for what these area agencies are all about. They're all over the state. Whatever community you live in is covered and served by an area agency on aging. You just call 1-800-551-3191, and you'll get into either the right agency, or they'll get you to the right agency. They have so much to offer. Connect. It's a hand up, not a handout. We have a lot more information. Stay tuned.
With as many as 1 in 10 Americans at risk for Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia, chances are someone you know and love will receive that diagnosis. When that happens, you may well feel devastated, but know that you are not alone. Help is available. You don't have to face dementia by yourself. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
It's been 27 years. I never thought I'd still be smoking, but here I am, COPD and all. I'm about to have a granddaughter. There's so much to show her, but I'm scared I won't be able to keep up like I used to. I kind of gave up on myself on quitting. But it's different now. I want to be here for her and for my daughter.
When I stopped showing up, Jim showed up at my door. He took me to the hospital in town to get me help. That's the day Jim saved my life.
Everyone has a role to play in preventing suicide. Know the signs and don't be afraid to speak up. If someone you know is in crisis or emotional distress, the only wrong thing to say is nothing at all. Call 800-273-TALK or text MT to 741-741.
Every generation produces heroes, men and women who step forward to defend our country in time of need, no matter the personal cost to themselves. And though we can never fully repay them, we can make sure they have access to low-cost, long-term care when they need it. That's what Montana's Veterans Homes are all about. If you've got a hero in need in your family, call us. We can help.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here with Sandra Lowry, Area 4 Agency on Aging today. And now, as I promised, we're going to start talking about SHIP, the State Health Insurance Assistance Program. Welcome. So glad to have you, Sandra. Now, let's talk about that, because the name SHIP is a little weird sometimes. Yes. Tell us what it is that SHIP really does. What is SHIP all about?
Well, we are trained to assist people with Medicare, those coming onto Medicare, those who are already on Medicare, in navigating the Medicare system, to figure out what their needs are, what we can do to help them with their insurance. If they're having problems with billing, they're having any kind of issues, in that way we can help them, as well as people who are new to Medicare. We can give them assistance with things like supplemental insurance, Advantage plans, any sort of program that surrounds Medicare.
Right. So, and when you're doing that, now you mentioned last segment that you're doing a lot of phone work. Mm-hmm. Can somebody talk with you about that over the telephone?
They certainly can. We have a lot of phone calls, especially because of the baby boomers. Mm-hmm. We're really busy with Medicare. A lot of people coming on every month to Medicare. So it seems to be one of the biggest parts of my work at this point. And so people call, we can make an appointment to meet with them in person. If they want to discuss it in person, we're also willing to talk over the telephone.
Wow, that's great. And I'm especially, again, with COVID, being able to have that option of in person or over the telephone is really lovely for the beneficiaries.
Yes, it is.
And then once they call up and start to talk to you, how does that go usually? Like, what are they looking for? What do they want?
Well, we sort of have to be investigators. We have to ask a lot of questions to prompt, but we ask what their situation is, what their needs are, whether they're continuing to work, whether they have retiree insurance. All of those things are so individual, and that then helps us to know what direction to point them in order to get them the help that they need. You mentioned their needs, and I just wanted to say it's also really important people know that this is confidential work. Yes, it is. It's very confidential, and it's also unbiased, because we aren't selling anything. We're giving good information so that they can make a decision that's right for them.
And as you're doing so, you're finding out about that person's unique needs. you're also hearing other things between the lines sometimes, and maybe they need other
That's
services.
very true, and that helps us to screen them for programs. So there are things like what we call low-income subsidy, which will help with prescription drug costs. There's a Medicare savings program, which is done through the state of Montana, which will help them with their premium for Part B if they meet financial criteria. So we just really pay attention to their financial situation and see if there's anything we can do to help boost.
Right, because we're talking about folks that are on a very limited income.
That's right. Often they are. The baby boomers are a little different because those are people with maybe a little better income, but our older folks really do need as much help as they can get.
Yeah, and like I've said so many times, it's a hand up, not a handout.
Yes.
You've worked and worked.
Yes, people have, and we encourage them to take advantage of anything that we can offer to them.
Yeah. Do you think people want to do that? I mean, Montanans are pretty proud folk.
They are, and it's I've learned how to present it in a way that makes it palatable for them.
And not, I think that's great because I know that's a huge part of being able to afford Medicare.
Yes.
Even though Medicare is a really good value, and it doesn't cost as much as maybe some other programs might. And also, as we've said, these folks have worked all their lives.
Yes, they have, and often for lower wages. So they're in a position of no fault of their own, but they might need that help.
One thing that we're just going to start chatting about, and we'll chat into the last segment, is open enrollment is coming.
Yes.
So when does that start?
That starts October 15th through December 7th. Yeah.
And what's so important about open? I know, right? We know what's important about
We do, yes. It's comparing your prescription drug plan to make sure that what you have will be good for the new year. Maybe you need to change, maybe you don't. But it's always good to check that.
Right. We want people to do that every year.
Yes, we do.
Just, for one thing, now I don't know that this has ever happened to anybody I ever worked with, but sometimes that plan can go away and you just get whatever they give you then.
That's exactly right. Right? Yeah. So comparison is really important.
Right. And also, I think another, issue is, what about people that don't take meds? They don't want to get anything, but it's a good placeholder, isn't it?
It really is, yes. So we want to talk to them about that and offer them what we can.
Right. And then I guess the other thing would be, because you mentioned retiree insurance, is if you're already...
Yes, if you're already covered, you don't need to take a plan. Right. And there's a penalty if you don't take a plan at the time that you're able to do that. So in order to avoid that, people may want to look at a plan, even the least costly.
Sure. Mm-hmm. That, folks, this is just really something you should do every year to look at your options, decide what's coming down the pike for you in terms of financial situation. No, you may not know the meds that you're going to be on for the next year. You may get new ones, but that doesn't mean you can't pick a plan that will work for you by talking with the SHIP counselors in your area and just getting all the information that you can possibly get about the plans. We don't want you to get stuck in the middle of the year with something that's not working for you. Remember, 1-800-551-3191 and come back.
I was diagnosed with diabetes in 1992 and I went into denial. It made me angry. I was a professional chef and I didn't want to change my eating style. It took me a long time to get serious about managing my health. My perspective changed from resentment to one of loving my body, the container for my spirit. Getting help from my diabetes educator supported my goals of improved self-care. I want to feel good and have a great life. My diabetes educator helps me do this.
If the Aging Network in Montana was a restaurant, the sign out front would say, over 50 million meals served over the last 30 years. Since adequate nutrition is critical to health and quality of life, Nutrition services are an important factor in keeping older Montanans healthy, independent, and living in their community and home. To find out more about senior nutrition programs in your area, call 1-800-551-3191.
Is that Robert Knievel? Captain Lewis, Captain Clark, I'm officially Evel Knievel now. I'm getting my Montana Real ID.
Did you make an appointment at mtrealid.gov?
Yes, sir.
Smile.
I brought my non-laminated Social Security card, 2 documents proving my current residential address, and my certified birth certificate.
Approved.
Go to mtrealid.gov.
Now I can fly. It's that easy.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here with Sandra Lowry of Area 4 Agency on Aging, talking about Medicare and SHIP. Hi Sandra.
Hi.
So we've talked about what SHIP is really about in terms of an advocacy program. Now there's a big part of SHIP, which is open enrollment, as you said, coming October 15th to December 7th. So let's talk about the rules of engagement for that, should we? Because we want to make sure that everybody possible can get the help they need. But it's a busy time.
It's a very busy time.
So we need to have some structures in place to make sure everyone gets service. So talk about how you set that up every year.
Well, we would prefer that people call us and make an appointment to visit with us, even if their appointment is going to be by phone. It's better if they do that. We can help them then in telling them what they're going to need for that appointment. They're going to want to have their Medicare card handy, their list of medications, the dosages, what pharmacy they use, so on and so forth. And so we ask that people be prepared, either when they come in person or have a phone appointment with us, so that we can do all of that efficiently and in a timely manner. If people walk into our office, that's fine for them to walk in, but they will have to make an appointment in order to see us. They won't be able to see us on the spot.
You know, that's just as much to save the beneficiary time as you.
It is.
Because you don't want them to sit there waiting while you dig through paperwork and such.
That's right.
As you said, you want it to be efficient and make sure that the person gets the best information that they need.
We do. We want to see as many people as we possibly can in that period of time and help as many people as we can.
What about emails? Do people email you?
A lot of times they do, and that can be a very good way to get us their list of medications, and then we can set up maybe a time to talk with them on the phone once we've done a search on the Medicare website. So there are many different ways that we can go about it.
Okay. So let's talk about the plans themselves a little bit. Sandra, what are you looking for in terms of changing? Like when you're doing your look every year, what should you be like? What are red flags?
Well, we always like to do the comparison in order to see whether the plan a person has will be efficient for the next year, whether it's going to increase in cost, whether the same medications are on the formulary. There's a number of things. And sometimes they can come to us and we can actually do the search and discover that the plan they have is just fine. They don't need to change a thing. But they may want to change if there is something better on the horizon.
Sure. And the plans are what, say $25 to $150?
Yes. The least expensive one we have right now is $7.30.
Wow, that's much better than $25.
That's actually very good. And people who don't have any medications will often take that least expensive plan just to have coverage. But it can go up from there. Most plans that we see, the average is probably somewhere in the $25 to $35 an hour, dollar range. Okay. But yeah, they want to really look at what's the best plan for their situation.
Well, and I really like there's the $7 one that you can get if you don't take meds, because talk a little bit about that penalty. We want to make sure people know if they don't take.
Yeah, if they don't take a plan when they're able and they have no other coverage, they can make that decision to do that. But later, if they want to get into a plan, there's a penalty that applies. It's not a lot, but it's each month for every month you've stayed out, so it can add up.
Well, yeah, and it's not a lot, but it's still something on a
right.
On a fixed income.
Yes, that's right.
So it's nice to get that in place. And I know, my own husband on Medicare, he has state coverage for me, so we get a letter every year that tells us that that's as good as or better than regular Medicare.
Yes, and that can happen too as well. If people have their an insurance from an employer, then they are able to avoid that penalty.
Great. Now let's talk just very briefly about the helping programs again, because we want to make sure that folks know they're out there. We have the low income subsidy, which
helps to lower the cost of the premium and also the drug costs for the plan. So if a person meets financial criteria, we can screen them for that and help them to apply. And the Big Sky RX program, which will help pay premium up to a certain amount as well. So we will help with that.
And the Big Sky RX I love, because that you can get when you they don't count your assets.
Right, and that's helpful to some people. Even if it just pays the premium, it's something. It gives them a little boost.
Well, and I know we always used to folks that weren't taking meds, that just wanted a inexpensive plan, could get onto the Big Sky RX and pay $0 each month.
Yes, that's right. So it's a big help.
Yeah. Well, and Sandra, once more, open enrollment's coming up. We want to make sure people really get whatever help they need, so they need to call you.
Yes, they
do.
Yep.
And just give you a jingle, and you will either make a phone appointment or an in-person appointment.
That's right.
And help them sort of find or guide them through the maze, if you will. But you're not picking, are you?
No, we're allowing them to choose. So we give them the comparison and they make the decision.
Well, Sandra, it's just been great to talk to you today. We're old friends. It's good to hear what you're doing, and I love to hear about the outreach in the community that you guys are doing. Just great to have you.
Happy to do it. Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, and folks, this is extremely important advocacy for Medicare beneficiaries. There's no dumb questions. You shouldn't feel bad at all if you can't understand something under Medicare, because it's kind of confusing. You may need some assistance. Just a little bit of information might be all you need to get you on your way. Or maybe you want to have an appointment and talk to one of our SHIP counselors who are experts in this field. Do whichever you want, but be sure you reach out. For Aging Horizons, I'm Kimmy Everman. Thanks for being with us.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.